Nigeria. It's a fresh Tuesday, the 24th of March 2026, and you're welcome to Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Absolutely. My name is Anulu Akpoido, and we thank you for joining us again this morning to have conversations that are making the rounds across the country and to keep you informed abreast of every development across the country.
And of course, I am Samson Balogun, so thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Let's get straight into what we have lined up for you on this show. On the break gist, we'll dive into a developing political conversation that's raising eyebrows and triggering debates across Nigeria.
Social commentator, very dark man, anyway, has alleged that President Bola Tinubu may be positioning for a third term in office, an idea that challenges constitutional limits and raises questions about democratic boundaries. Is this a case of political speculation, strategic narrative building, or something deeper? We unpack the claims this morning and the reactions and what it could mean for Nigeria's democratic future.
After that, we'll bring you the weather report, followed by Daybreak News, a sharp and comprehensive look at the top headlines making waves both at home and internationally.
Then comes our newspaper review and analysis, where we read between the lines of today's front pages and explore the real stories behind the headlines. Our analyst Oluwaseun Oluwole will be joining us to give us deeper insight into the issues driving national discourse.
And then the spotlight turns to the big story, a conversation that sits right at the intersection of power, control, and silence.
Today's big story: anarchy or strategy? Decoding government silence in the NURTW saga, from the forceful takeover of the National Secretariat to the ongoing leadership tussle. The crisis within the NURTW has exposed cracks in union politics and raised serious questions and concerns about law, order, and political influence. But perhaps more striking is what many describe as government's muted response.
All right, just after that, is this silence a calculated strategy to avoid escalation, or does it risk enabling disorder? What does it tell us about authority, accountability, and the balance of power within Nigeria's political ecosystem?
Absolutely. To help us break it all down, we'll be joined by Honorable Molaja Olaoye, APC chieftain and public affairs analyst, who will bring his perspective on the unfolding drama and what lies beneath it.
And of course, that promises to be a conversation with depth, insight, and maybe a few hard truths on this show.
Hard truth, it is. And as always, we round things off with Trend Watch, capturing what's buzzing across social media and the street.
All right, so wherever you are this morning that you're watching from, stay with us. This is where the day begins with meaning.
And you're watching Daybreak Live on Dominion Television this morning. Good morning to you, Nigerians.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Samson, this morning.
Good to have you back on this desk.
I mean, it's always a pleasure to be on this beautiful hallowed table.
Honestly. But then there are quite a number of,
Yes.
insightful conversations on the pages of the newspaper that really needs to be touched this morning. And one of that is the assertion by the social commentator, as they would call him, a very dark man, that says the president is actually going in for a third time in office. I mean, maybe a one-party state. And the very big question is, what do people do with their platforms if they have the opportunity to have millions or maybe hundreds of thousands of Nigerians following them? What do you feed them? Sometimes some people feed them with rumors, baseless assertions, and some of these things are even unfounded. And the very big question is, what are the evidences that point towards the direction that the president is looking for a one-party system kind of arrangement in Nigeria? That is one. Two, what facts does he have to say the president wants a third time in office? He's not even in for the second time yet. We still have a few months to 2027, and someone is already talking about third time. And that is why, I don't believe if you've got a platform and then you have millions of Nigerians following you, you should chase clout with it. I mean, you should be you should be sure of what you are saying. You should put out hardcore evidences out there so that people will not just follow you godly and say you are just there, you are grilling out facts. I mean, sometimes if you want to make content, you really have to think about what it might cost. You might just set the country on fire with all of that. And that brings us to what the president could have done if he was actually looking for a one-party state or maybe a third time in office. As it stands, the APC have 31 out of 36 state governors. I mean, that points to one direction. I don't think any one of the governors, was coerced into joining the APC. And I don't think there is anything that says they must join the APC according to the Nigerian constitution. I mean, we have seen governors who have refused to join. Shema Kedo of Oyo State, Bala Mohammed, also Bauchi State has refused to join. Alex Oti refused to join. Of course, All Progressives Grand Alliance, Charles Chukuma Soludo of Anambra State said he's not joining the APC. That he is also already a progressive. I mean, they have a working relationship, and there's no point moving from one party to the other when you can easily work together, even from different political parties. That says it all. That sums it up, that regardless of what you believe, okay, people don't really have to make some baseless assertions. And away from there, APC holds 268 seats at the House of Assembly out of 360. That's the majority you need to force any bill to do anything on the floor of the House. And up till now, nobody has raised such motion or done anything about that. That tells you that nothing like that is happening. I mean, the Tinubu people know from Lagos State would not want to put, is what he has as credibility on the line for such thing. I mean, we have seen that happen before. The third term amendment bill pushed forward during the era of President Olusegun Obasanjo that was kicked back by some senators at that time, and most notably of them at that very point that was the AMPP senator on the floor of the House, and that was talking about the late former governor of Oyo State, Isiaka Abiola Ajimobi, at that time. And he was very vocal on the floor of the House, saying vehemently, saying, we are not going to support you for third term, and he failed. So if anyone thinks anybody is coming for third term, I think that would be baseless. So if the president desires a third time in office, this is the way to go, okay? The very first step is to propose an amendment bill, and of course must be supported by at least 2/3 majority of all members in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, and the APC have the 2/3 already on the floor of the House, meaning that they have no problem to sweat about pushing a third-time amendment bill or maybe any other thing, including the one-party system they are talking about. 24 states out of 36 must vote in favor of the amendment, which the APC, they have already, okay? 31 out of 36. I mean, what else do you need? The president will need to sign and approve it. He's the sitting president, and if that bill is passed on the floor of the House, he will sign at any point, just like he signed the new Electoral Act. He will just put pen to paper and sign and give you reasons why he signed it. So, without having much to say, the president has no business to sweat about any of this, only if he doesn't want to do it. So if anyone wants to make accusations, if you want to make assertions on your platform, because Nigerians trusted you enough to follow you on social media, you should not make baseless assertions. I mean, you should not just go there and feed your gullible followers with gibberish.
So it's a bit funny too, but I was looking at is it Michael Otse? Is this real name now? Popular known as Vincent Otse. Very dark man. And I was trying to ask, there's something I've always known, and I keep saying it, that in this life, it's either you influence someone or you are influenced.
Right.
Albeit, influence is inevitable. There's no blocking out, there's no shying away from influence. Influence will happen, right? And I think that's exactly why it is very important that we have to vet, people who become persons of influence in society. Because some would say that, must you follow him? That's not the case. If you ever see a leader that is doing something and then people are now coming to say, must you follow him? You are not really sat down to look at the influence or the power of influence, as it were, to understand how that people will do things because they see things. People would like to have an association, an affiliation with somebody that is top there, right? So just the same way you see a lot of artists come out to do a lot of things, all of the things they do, and then they promote it. And you see a lot of people following them, and then they do the same. There was a time a guy said people should not be using belts. And it was a beltless community we had at the time. And you were asking, some people that are doing this are even older than the guy that is proposing this idea. But it tells the story of influence, that influence is powerful, right? Influence is something you cannot take away. Now, we understand that, and this is not even the first time Very Dark Man would say things that are not really, you can tell that, you can see, maybe this is one of the few times he's going to talk into a political issue, to tell you that he doesn't really have so much of the understanding, right?
The most dangerous disease on the planet is you thinking you know and you know nothing.
And so unfortunately, so you can tell that
you will easily infect other people with such disease.
So you can imagine if we have to promote a lot of people like this, and then they get to serve gibberish, they get to serve balderdash to the people, you can imagine what will be the resultant effect, because the people that that are following them will take these things to hook, line, and sink and say, the president is not a good president, he's gone in for third term. And that's exactly where I will come from. To say, sometimes perhaps we need to vet the people we trust. Perhaps we need to vet people that influence us, because that it is very important that we enable society to be a better place. If we vet all of these people and they promote injustice, they promote sexual violence, they promote all of these anomalies in society, that's exactly what we are saying. Someone once said, and I'll keep reiterating this point, he said, I don't mind, I don't care who writes the laws of a land. Let me write our songs. And he's talking about influence. If you look at how many of our youth, when we were younger, were influenced? We were influenced because we watched things on TV. Right. Some of those things we saw on TV influenced us, and then we began to say, oh yeah, I also want to dress like this. And it became a thing, it became a norm in society. And you cannot even say people should stop doing that. Rather, let's look at our influence factors. Who are these people that we are giving credibility? Can we question them sometimes? When they say things that are wrong, can we call them out? It's just as important as that. But let me go straight to the point he made. But maybe politically, there's no, we cannot rule this out to say, this might not have crossed his mind before, or there could not be speculations around quarters, especially with the fact that he has the numbers, like you said. Like you have reeled out to us the number of House of Reps and Senate people he has in his party. So you can tell that if he wants to do that, he probably would have done that, you know. But it's not to maybe remind ourselves of 2006, when President Olusegun Obasanjo tried to make such a move, right? Because it's still, whether or not he makes it, is not even the most important thing, because he has to go through a lot of constitutional amendment. He has to go through a lot of things to enable that we get to the point where it can happen, right? So there's still a lot of layers of scrutiny that this kind of reforms will go through. So it is not even about, so if you say he's trying to go on for a third term, there's no point. Let him do it, and then let's see what will become. There's no issue about, okay, you think he's going in for, and he's running a one-party state. I mean, it can come across, this is exactly my point. It can come across as though you're working against the president. Perhaps you have collected money. That's what people will say. You've collected money to, speak ill of this present administration, because I've never seen you come out to see any good thing about this administration. When they did a lot of things, you did not mention it. But whenever there's anything that looks like something shady, you bring it out. You're so very poised to do that. You go online and say, set your camera, put the ring light on, and say, oh, this president is going to... I mean, so what exactly do you know about them? Do you know how the constitutional amendment is going to be passed?
What it even looks like on the floor of the House to actually convince members of the House of Assembly, and of course the Senate, to say I want to go for third term.
It's a deep thing, because you have to...
I mean, even when this current democracy was still, somewhere really far from what we are seeing today, it was difficult for former President Olusegun Obasanjo to convince them on the floor of the House. It was even someone from the Southwest that stood against them and said, look, you are not coming back the third time. And you have to sit in your house. If you are done with your second time in office, go back to your home state in Ogun State. And that was it. And
that's
how it ended.
He has to OOPL there, so he's sitting there.
That's what he's doing now. So people tend to forget what all of these claims, they are spurious claims. They are preposterous. Because you don't even know what you are saying. Okay? This is not just something you wake up in the morning and say, look, I'm coming for a third time, and then that's it. Yes,
it's a lot deeper
than that. Do you know, no matter how good you've been as a president, the backlash that comes with it, you won't even want to try it. Unless you are such person. Yorubas will say, there are people like that. They don't care about what people will say about them. They will come back and do it, and if it doesn't work, they go back home. They don't care about the shame it brings. But this is a person that has not even made mention of any of these things. No one in his team has mentioned anything like that. The only thing they are focused on is 2027 and governance, because you cannot take it away from average politicians. The moment it is 2 years to an election, governance suffer. Okay, they tend to forget about governance a little bit and then focus on the election, and that's what we are saying. It happens in other places too, not just Nigeria. But my own problem is that how did we get to that point where an average Nigerian thinks that Nigeria is the worst country you can ever find on the planet? That's bad. Because if you yes, you might want to ask this question. If the thing is, when you talk about fuel now, yes, it's expensive in Nigeria, but compared to what you have in other countries, okay, Nigeria is still one of the places where you get the cheapest fuel across the world. Go and check, go and verify. fact finding. Another thing is, yes, you might just want to say, oh, as against what we now earn in the country, and the strength of the naira. Yes, you might say it is not too reasonable. But then these are things you are working on.
Yeah.
We have also, the president has spoken about how much he's working on the macroeconomy so that it can percolate and trickle down to the microeconomy that affects you and I, affects how much you buy a cup of rice, affects how much you buy, a tuber of yam. Yes, we are still getting there, but people want you to wake up in the morning and just make magic happen. It doesn't work that way. The economy is not rocket science. Yes, we all understand, but it takes time. It's a process. So if you really want to make some claims, I think people who are actually in that position to influence people should also, no matter how bad you think governance is and government is, and of course the government of today is, what you have to talk about most of the times is, yes, we know you are doing this, but you can also work on this. Constructive criticism. You can always be the angel of doom. Okay? There are times you sit down and see the good things that are happening in your country, even if it is not coming from the government. If it's coming from your fellow human beings, fellow citizens, appreciate the little things that happen.
Just on the last note, I'll also like to add to that to say, I remember the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari finished office, he said he was tired. He said it himself that he would just go and rest, that he needed rest. See, what it takes to be a leader, it's not a joke. Until you become one, you will not understand how much it takes. How much it takes from you physically, emotionally. It's draining. It can drain you, almost, like totally annihilate you if you don't know how to really escape from it. So you can see the likes of the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, went to rest. Whenever there's a question of politics, he's just running away. See, again, Tinubu is how old now? That's another conversation. It's not even easy. You can see, I was trying to check. I had a conversation with someone, and he told me how many visits the president, not visits to maybe like countries, how many places the president will have to visit in a week. And I was scared. In just a week, that's why he has delegations. That's why he's delegating people to go. Otherwise, the president will have died. Because you cannot attend all of those visits yourself, and you are invited. So anybody that goes in your name. That's even it. You don't imagine how you think it sleeps around. It doesn't really sleep. You see the president today in Zamfara. You see the president tomorrow in France. And you think that's easy to be on the flight. It's not. So I'm not even sure the president will be so bold enough to say he's fit to even try Tottenham. It will. I'm serious. It's a lot to deal with, really.
So lastly, before we go, you see, I would really want to say this so that it doesn't feel like, you see, if everyone at one point or the other has been at the helms of affairs somewhere, you have been saddled with some responsibility. So, how did you fare when you were put there? Monies have been contributed into that NGO to cater for some things. How have you been faring? We have seen a lot of controversies since it all started. So, it doesn't mean you are also a saint. Because we have seen it happen.
You work in a place too. We've seen the way you work. We've seen the way you exercise your duties.
Just the little things you have done that has brought controversies to you. Now compare it to the magnitude of what the president does. It's one thing to be the head of the family. It's another thing to be head of a state. So
you have to be the head of Nigeria.
Head of Nigeria. So you have to think twice before you make some claims sometimes. Yeah. But then that's that convenient point where we help you plan your day. This morning, we take this one from Ibadan. Weather report this morning. What does it look like in Ibadan as we speak? Weather in Ibadan feels like 32 degrees Celsius. But then it will drop just a little later in the morning, and it will drop to 31 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy with humidity around 2%. But then it rises to 35 degrees Celsius later in the afternoon. It will be mostly cloudy, and humidity rises to 22%. There is a drop to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening. It will remain mostly cloudy with zero chance of humidity. And overnight, of course, weather drops to 26 degrees Celsius while being cloudy, humidity returning back to 22% right here in Ibadan Southwest today. And
from Ibadan, I'll take a maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes journey to Lagos, depending on the car you drive and maybe the driver as well, to Lagos, because Lagos is cloudy across board today. In the morning, it starts at 31 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy across many parts of Lagos. In the afternoon, it rises just by 1 degree Celsius to 32 in the afternoon. They're expected to be mostly cloudy. And then it drops to 29 degrees Celsius in the evening, expected to be mostly cloudy. And just one further drop, drop to 28 degrees Celsius overnight to become cloudy in Lagos State, Nigeria today.
All right, moving on. Let's take this one from Oshobo this morning. What does the weather look like in the Sacred Grove, of course, in Oshobo? Right now, it currently feels like 29 degrees Celsius. It will rise just like in Ibadan. There will be a rise to 30 degrees Celsius later in the morning, so close, but of course, humidity will be at 1%. In the afternoon, it rises further to 35 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy with humidity maintaining 1% right there. And in the evening, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius. It will remain mostly cloudy, zero chance of humidity. And of course, overnight, it drops further to 25 degrees Celsius. It will be it will be cloudy, and of course, humidity rises back to 22 degrees Celsius right there. Of course, 22% right there in Oshobo today.
And there seems to be a wave of heat around town now, and it's really affected, especially in the southwest as well. Really. Moving on from the southwest now to Port Harcourt, River State, and the weather feels like 22 degrees Celsius across board. And in the morning, 27 degrees Celsius is what it starts with, and it's supposed to be cloudy because there's a chance of rain in Port Harcourt, River State today at 17% humidity. And in the afternoon, that's when you expect few showers at 34% humidity, when the weather would remain at 28 degrees Celsius, and it will drop significantly to 24 degrees Celsius, dropping 4 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy still, and still promising showers overnight at 22 degrees Celsius, at also 40% humidity right there in Port Harcourt, River State. Port Harcourt is expecting showers, so if you are there today or you are planning to be there, get your umbrella for yourself.
All right, just like Arno said, it is really hot in some places across the. If it is that hot in the southwest, I wonder what it will look like in the north as it stands. But of course, that takes us to the north central this morning, and that is the largest state in Nigeria, and that's Niger, Suleja to be precise. The weather is currently fair at 25 degrees Celsius. It will rise by 5 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius later in the morning. It will be mostly cloudy with humidity at 1%. And it will remain mostly cloudy in the afternoon, but rises to 37 degrees Celsius with zero chance of humidity. It drops back to 30 degrees Celsius in the evening. The weather will be clear, 1% chance of humidity. And overnight, it drops further to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, with zero chance of humidity in Suleja, Niger State today.
And just from Suleja to Federal Capital Territory, it's the same across board this morning. Very surprisingly, at 25 degrees Celsius, the weather is fair. Just the same way you have in Suleja is what you have in Federal Capital. In the morning, 30 degrees Celsius, and then it rises to 37 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. And in the evening, it drops back to 30 degrees Celsius, and it ends overnight at 26 degrees Celsius. It's going to be partly cloudy in Federal Capital Territory today.
All right, moving on. Let's take this one from Kano Municipal this morning. As we speak, well, the day has not even, as we speak, weather is currently at 22 degrees Celsius in Kano, and it is sunny right now at 7:30, okay? And later in the morning, it rises further to 32 degrees Celsius. That's a huge, leap, but of course, it will be partly cloudy with zero chance of humidity. In the afternoon, it rises further to 39 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy with zero chance of humidity. And in the evening, it drops to 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy. And overnight, it will remain mostly cloudy. But of course, it drops to 24 degrees Celsius right there in Kano Municipal, Kano State today. And
from Kano to Maiduguri, Borno State today, the weather is fair at 22 degrees Celsius across board. And then in the morning, 35 degrees Celsius is what we expect to have in Maiduguri today. Expect to be partly cloudy as well. And in the afternoon, this is the peak of it that we've been talking about, 41 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure I've seen this in a long time
and the Northeast has always been the hottest part of the country.
So it's going to be very sunny in the afternoon at 41 degrees Celsius, very sunny, 0% humidity. And in the evening, it stays at 29 degrees Celsius, although a sharp decline in that rate, but it's still still expected to be mostly clear, and then a further drop to 23 degrees Celsius overnight to become partly cloudy, but it's going to be very hot and sunny in Maiduguri, Borno today.
You'll be needing an umbrella for that.
Perhaps you have to stay indoors and
you have to stay indoors.
hydrate yourself, drink a lot of water.
If you stay indoors, you know, the heat, there's a way it gets it to you. Even in the southwest, sometimes you are not that comfortable staying indoors.
Yes.
But of course, you know, it's the IBEDC and some other electricity distribution companies across the country. They are not really doing that well at this time, and that has affected most Nigerians. But then, that's the convenient place to leave weather report this morning. We say thank you for joining us on the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. Do well to also follow us on our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. All right, it's a convenient point to go on a short break. And when we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. My name is Anuluakpo Idowu. Suspected bomb explosions have been reported in parts of north-central Nigeria, with casualties recorded. In Niger State, 8 persons with an improvised explosive device, IED, hit a vehicle in Borogu local government area. The blast also destroyed a key bridge linking nearby communities in Kwara State. An explosion rocked Woro community in Kayama local government area, with several people feared dead. No group has claimed responsibility, though residents suspect Boko Haram involvement. Meanwhile, authorities are yet to issue an official statement on the incident. Meanwhile, troops of Operation Hardin Kai have discovered a suspected terrorist burial site in Borno State. The site, found in Abadam local government area, reportedly contained about 8 bodies. Security sources say troops also recovered a fabricated mortar tube and a medical post used to treat injured fighters. The discoveries linked to recent operations that forced insurgents to retreat. Troops have since intensified patrols to prevent regrouping and sustain pressure on fleeing terrorists. The federal government has inaugurated the new governing board of the National Pension Commission in Abuja. Senator George Akume urged members to uphold high standards of governance and safeguard over 28 trillion naira in pension assets under the contributory pension scheme. The SGF emphasized the board's role in providing strategic direction and oversight while allowing management to handle day-to-day operations. Agbaje Okpayemi Olukayode and Omolola Oloworaron pledged commitment to integrity, transparency, and leveraging pension funds for national development. And moving on, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has said it will arraign former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai before the Federal High Court in Kaduna on March 24th. He will face charges including conversion and possession of public property and money laundering, alongside one Joel Adoga. The commission also filed separate charges against El-Rufai and Amadou Sule at the Kaduna State High Court, covering abuse of office, fraud, and conferring undue advantage. ICPC affirmed that El-Rufai has been duly served and that due process will be followed. And now in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde has approved the 10,000 naira salary top-up for workers in Oyo State. He said the allowance aimed at cushioning rising fuel and transport costs will run from an initial 3 months from April. The payment will apply to state and local government workers with a possible extension depending on economic conditions. Makinde also hinted that non-state workers may benefit as the government works out modalities for wider inclusion. And now in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has said it is on track to reduce inflation to single digits as it transitions to inflation targeting monetary policy framework. Dr. Muhammad Abdullahi said the move announced during the session with the Nigerian Economic Society in Abuja aims to strengthen policy credibility and ensure long-term price stability. He added that the framework will serve as a key anchor for the economy, shaping expectations and reducing the impact of external shocks. And finally in sport, Super Eagles backroom staff flown out to Antalya, Turkey for the international friendlies against Iran and Jordan. Assistant coaches Fidelis Lechuku and Daniel Gumodede will lead the contingent. Head coach Eric Chow and other assistants are expected to fly to Antalya from Europe. The Super Eagles will open camp for the friendlies today, and three-time African champions will face Iran in their first friendly on Friday. The second friendly against Jordan will hold next week, Tuesday. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website at www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and X at Dominion Cast. And that ends the news on Dominion Television. My name is Anulu Akbo Ido. Thank you for watching.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience.
The governor of Oyo State, Engineer Seyi Makinde, has approved 10,000 transport supports for workers in the state, and that seems to be like one of the big captions across the newspapers. This one, of course, we check into many other print and see the stories that are making the rounds across the country, Nigeria. Welcome to this segment, Newspaper Headlines and Analysis, where we check into the print, bring you the high points and the low points sometimes of what other stories we have on newspapers. This morning, particularly, I will start from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper because he has that caption of the story in Oyo State talking about Engineer Seyi Makinde. Makinde approves 10,000 naira transport support for workers, and that was when it came out yesterday, a lot of jubilations across board. You could see a sense of relief for a lot of people to say, perhaps maybe not even about the money, but about the fact that the government is thinking about the people. But others will also beg to differ to say, well, it's just a normal thing. But you cannot say that that is not something that is thoughtful. You might as well say it's not so much in terms of difference. 10,000 naira might not help. But you can also think from the angle to say that is a thoughtful governance we have in the state, especially about that. But that's not all there is to that story. Many other things are still breaking, particularly 1.5 billion naira YEP and safer disbursement kicks off in Oyo State. That's also one of the high points of that conversation yesterday when the governor of Oyo State, Engineer Seyi Makinde, made that claim. That's exactly one of the big captions we can find on the papers this morning. Now, moving on to the bigger caption on Nigerian Tribune newspaper, as you can see on your screen, bandits bomb bridge in Niger. Bandits bomb bridge in Niger. That's exactly one very sad story. One not good for the mind. Actually, there's more than 8 fear dead, 1 killed, mother injured in Kwara explosion. Meanwhile, the source of explosion has not been verified according to claims and reports as we speak. Some have said it's been linked to Boko Haram. Others have said, we cannot tell what exactly happened for that blast to happen. But exactly, we've seen blasts in recent times. Last week, there was a blast as well. And we've seen in Borno, and this is again in Kwara and Niger State particularly, having simultaneous blast in the country. Meanwhile, there's also a big caption right there, a sub-reader that says, military strikes Turge's hideouts, kills scores of bandits. That is like a good one right there as well. The military is targeting Turge's hideout and killing scores of bandits. I think this is a good one, especially when we can see the pictures. We don't just want the stories, we want the pictures. We want to see if some people were apprehended, we want to see if they were paraded, we want to see some of those things, because that's more alarming, that's more sounding for victory. So if you say we have victory, we need to see the dividends of victory. We need to see the result of victory, right? And I think it's a good way to go from there. Meanwhile, executives and every of the executives we can have so as to also put ourselves on a very good platform to compete or contest 2027 elections. That's exactly the story right there. So we're talking politics, talking the PDP. What becomes of this? Perhaps we say time will tell. Meanwhile, court sentences ex-AGF to 72 years imprisonment. That's exactly one big caption you might find on the print this morning. And this, of course, many people are saying, people have different opinions about this. And Wabuoku and also the ex-AGF, that's him, 72 years imprisonment for 800 or 868 million naira fraud. That's exactly that story. You can catch more read on page 23 of that newspaper, Nigerian Tribune, this morning. Alleged fraud. ICPC to arraign El Rufai today. Yeah, fingers crossed as well. Eyes, ears, everything on the courts to see what the ruling would become. ICPC to arraign El Rufai today. That's exactly that big caption a lot of people are expecting from the case of saying that somebody who trapped the NSA's communication system and to other maybe investigations that revealed fraud, malpractices, and a lot of things as well. All of those claims are yet to be verified while we keep our fingers crossed and see perhaps this will get verified in no time. Meanwhile, moving on from that story, illicit drug use increases stroke risk. That's according to a study on health. That is an information you might use this morning. EU announces £288 million grant to Nigeria's healthcare sector and others. Meanwhile, while we talk about other stories, Tinubu strangling democracy. That's coming from Atiku, condemns DSS siege on Malami's residence. That is also something you might want to check out this morning. Your narrative on Tinubu's UK state visit is misconceived. Omokri tells Momodu. I don't know if you're abreast of that, but let me get you into that bit of narrative that some have said during that state visit that there was an alleged case of, I don't know if you call it brown envelope or bribery or whatever you want to call it. It says some persons were given $200. I think the first day, others received $500. No, not dollars, pounds now, because it was in the UK. That some UK Nigerian diasporan community were said to have received that amount, but it's not verified. It's just hearsays around corners. Some have said that, yeah, the president made sure to let that happen so he could have supporters, because as much as we saw in the video, there were Nigerians raising placards to say, welcome, President Tinubu, you are doing well, and a lot of things. People had captions saying, as beautiful as you are a good president and all of that. So others have said, how did this happen? Meanwhile, there was a video that was circulating across the social media and across the internet, and people were showing that some persons were actually giving out money, and it was in the UK. We could see the flags in their hands, and then were distributing money to people. Perhaps I wouldn't know why. So if you have to say, I was going to probably just write a commentary on that to say, when bribery or brown envelope crosses borders. That's exactly the caption of my story. But, that's not founded yet until we see maybe someone coming out to prove this and probe this by showing videos and evidence to say that really happened. But meanwhile, not to take away the good side of that conversation, others have also said you have to think about how much of EU that state visit did to Nigerians, especially illegal migrants who are currently in the UK, because the conversation went from the fact that there was an MOU that was signed between the Nigerian government and then the UK government to deport people who illegally found their way to the UK. But there's been claims across corners. Some are saying, you know what, this should not have been the case. The president should not have agreed to this. The government, the Nigerian government should not have agreed to this. There are other ways to go about it. They've brought the cases of Colombia, of Mexico, and some other countries of the world who would not really go to sign that kind of bill because they understand those people that left their countries are also leaving just to get better. And if you have to bring them back to Nigeria, it's like they've paid a lot of money to get to that point, even if it is illegal, like you would say. But whatever the case is, if it is a crime, then it's a crime. So I think that's where diplomatic concerns can just die down, to understand that yes, if something is illegal, it's illegal. There's no way to make an illegal thing legal. There's no way to make something wrong, something that is already foundational and fundamentally wrong, to become wrong. That's also one of the claims across board. But exactly the case, we still see, because there's really nothing you do that would not get a backlash. Even if it's as good as you think it is, some would still find a way to say, we don't think this is the right way to go for the country. But that's exactly the conversation right there about the UK state visit. But there are many tops and high points to look out for, especially about that particular UK state visit. So many things happened. We've tried to unwrap some of them. I will still keep unwrapping them, especially as they translate to the better good of the country, Nigeria, and maybe the UK as well. Moving on from that story now, perhaps moving on totally from Nigerian Tribune to Daily Sun newspaper, it talks about APC and their zoning plans. APC retains zoning formula. That is on the front page of Daily Sun this morning. Daily Sun has it written that Yuada Masari admit challenges, insists convention will hold as planned. Uzodim Oborevori Okowa rally South for APC in Asaba. So many persons are already gearing up, gathering momentum to say, let's go for APC, especially in some climes, because there was yesterday too, it was also in the news that the chairman Iwade was saying that yes, they are still retaining our structure, we have everything in place, we are not, doing whatever that is against what we believe as a constitution of this party, and it seems to be working for them. Perhaps you would say otherwise. Anyway, Obi Yedioa Udenwa team set up for ADC Southeast push. That is also coming from that corner on Daily Sun newspaper. Nigeria begins HIV prevention injection rollout. That's like a good one, right? That's a very beautiful one. Nigeria begins HIV prevention injection rollout. And I think I did a bit of study at one point. I discovered that there were some states that had the highest, they have a spike in the number of HIV positive persons. But it's also good to say, like we always say, that having HIV is not a death sentence. Well, while we understand the gravity of that, we understand also that we've had a lot of persons who did not die just because they had HIV. So it's a good way to tell people, yes, there's a prevention injection that is rolling out in the country, and you might as well, benefit from that if you really put your ears to the ground to see what or how to partake of that. Meanwhile, IPI urges Tinubu to rein in Niger government over media attack. Okay, that's Niger State particularly. IPI urges Tinubu to rein in Niger governor over media attacks. That's also something to check out this morning. Niger Delta Chamber targets $5 billion investment and 500,000 jobs. We love this kind of target, but we want it to really translate to real policies, not just in the papers, not just in the news. We want people to benefit. Niger Delta is a place of interest to the country Nigeria, particularly because of how much it gives to the GDP. And so we must do something to get that happen. 500,000 jobs is a development, $5 billion investment is a development, but we want the Middle East to also enjoy from this. Meanwhile, war premium hits Nigerian shippers. Voyage cost quadruple from $250,000 to $1 billion. So many other things coming out from that end. Meanwhile, Tinubu's economic reforms most significant in decades. That's coming from Mba as NGX, UBA affirm Enugu as an emerging investors heaven. That's also one thing to check out right there in Enugu, where Mba says that Tinubu's economic reforms is most significant in decades. That is up for debate. Some would say, we argue that. Others will say, perhaps if you look at the data, perhaps the stats will tell you otherwise. Perhaps the stats will say, yes, the president is really doing well, considering the trajectory, the economic trajectory of the country. But all of that is up for debate, as we know. Moving on from that story, perhaps away from Daily Sun newspaper to see what This Day is saying this day. Meanwhile, the big caption on This Day newspaper says, ICPC arraigns El Rufai today over multi-billion naira fraud allegations. That's exactly about the courts incident, ICPC, and then El Rufai. That is a big one that fingers are crossed for, and like we say, we'll keep an eye out for that story and see what becomes of it. Wike knocks Makinde, wants him not to start a fight he can't win. Meanwhile, the saga still continues for years on Wike and the governor of Oyo State, Engineer Seyi Makinde. Wike knocks Makinde, that's how the caption reads on This Day newspaper, not to start a fight he can't win. PDP faction declares no victor, no vanquished, begins sale of forms ahead of national convention. That is also one of the sub-captions right there. The readers, the sub-readers right there on This Day newspaper speaking to the issue of the PDP as we have it right there. In major investment drive, European Union unveils £290 million global gateway package for Nigeria. That is a good one right there. If you're checking this morning, in major investment drive, EU unveils £290 million global gateway package for Nigeria. That is a good one, you might say. Meanwhile, oil slumps to $96 per barrel as Trump suspends planned strikes on Iran energy infrastructure. That is also a good one right there. From $100 that used to be $100 per barrel to $96 per barrel now seems like a good development, especially as the U.S. has suspended its planned strikes on Iran energy infrastructure. And that's talking about the global politics, the global Israel-Iran-American war. And that's exactly how we put it together. But yes, we hope there's a calm after the storm. Moving on from that storm and to the New Telegraph this morning. New Telegraph has the caption, "Spike in terrorist attacks, intel gathering and analysis." That is on the front page of New Telegraph newspaper this morning. As you can see, spike in terrorist attacks. There's lapse in intel gathering, according to analysis. AVM Adesoya has said that, there's lapse in intel gathering and analysis. So perhaps that's why we have the United States having some of the troops coming in through to help with intelligence gathering and the dissemination of the right information and how to go about the issues, the insurgents in the country Nigeria. Meanwhile, Naira holds firm as reserves, oil output support stability. Naira holds firm as reserves, oil output support stability, also on the top corner of the New Telegraph newspaper this morning. Middle East crisis, Iran, U.S. both want to make a deal. That's coming from the United States President Donald Trump this morning. Iran, U.S. both want to make a deal. That's talking about the Middle East crisis. Perhaps we've seen the worst of it. Perhaps there's light at the end of the tunnel. And that's a prayer, really. PDP NEC is saying, "You wanted money, I wanted power." Wiki tells Makinde. You wanted money, I wanted power. Wiki tells Makinde. So it's a fight of money and power. Who wins money? Who wins power? Who wants the both? Perhaps we would not tell. Yes, time will tell, like we always say, talking about the gathering as it goes on in the country, Nigeria. Meanwhile, other stories still making headlines, particularly is Igbinedon Education Center saga, heightened concerns for bullying in schools. Yes, we've talked about this, that situation where a student was bullying another student. It's drawn reactions across board. We've had conversations where others have said, you know what, that should not be treated as a minor case. It should be treated as a serious case. So there's been claims, really. If you check even the global community, there's been debates as to if a minor commits a crime. Are there some minors, are there some crimes that should be taken as an adult kind of crime? Should they be put in, or should they have the sentences that should go for an adult because they did something very grievous, something very, very fatal, something very bad, abysmal? Should they have the same sentence as an adult? There's been claims across quarters. Others have said if it is that we want them to be, reformed, restructured, and brought back to society, perhaps we will not have that conversation because we have to do it within the ambit of law, and also to understand that these kids are just kids. They might falter, but they need correction because hurting people hurts people, right? So you might have as well look at those kids and see how they're growing up, their background has been, and probably help them because they can still be helped at that point, right? Yeah, but others are calling for stricter law and with demands to say if a child does that, then there should be a heavy punishment for that. But what would be the heavy punishment is still what is still relative as we speak now. But exactly the case, that incident happened, and I can assure you that is not the first time it has happened in the country. Some of us went to boarding schools, but we can't tell all the stories because some of them we've even forgotten. We've had a lot of cases of bullying, people doing a lot of things, students doing a lot of things to themselves, and this is not really, but it's not something we encourage. Nobody will encourage such. We're just saying that we can really help everyone that is doing this, that is hurting people, and across board. That's exactly one of the conversations. IGP says to senior officers, abuse of office won't be tolerated. That's Tunji Disu saying out to officers, abuse of office won't be tolerated. And that's exactly something to check on New Telegraph newspaper. So many other stories still making the rounds, but of course, for want of time, we have to shift our focus now to the big story, but that will be shortly after this break. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of next level broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Good morning and welcome to the big story on Daybreak Live. Today we turn our focus to a growing controversy that sits at the intersection of politics, power, and public order. The ongoing leadership tussle within the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW, what would ordinarily be an internal union matter has evolved into a national conversation, raising eyebrows over the role of government, the silence of authorities, and the deeper political currents beneath the surface. So, is this unfolding drama a descent into anarchy or a carefully calculated strategy? That's the question we are asking this morning. Samson Balogun is my name, and thank you for joining us on this show. Now, the story of the current NURTW saga cannot be told without tracing the journey of one of its most influential figures, Musiliu Akinsoya, popularly known as MC Oluomo. Once a dominant force, as the Lagos State chairman of NURTW, MC Oluomo's rise was marked by his strong grassroots influence and deep connections within the transport sector. However, at the height of internal crisis and mounting pressure within Lagos, he stepped aside from his state leadership role, a move that many, to them, appeared to be strategic rather than retreat. And shortly after that, he emerged as the national stage, assuming a more prominent position within the union's structure in Abuja. This transition signaled a shift from local dominance to broader national relevance, placing him at the center of power dynamics that extend beyond motor parks and into political arena. While not holding elective office, figures like MC Oluomo have long been seen as critical mobilizers, individuals whose influence can shape voter turnout, control grassroots structures, and indirectly sway political outcomes. Their roles, though unofficial, often intersect with political interests, making unions like the NURTW routine more than just transport bodies, but key players in Nigeria's political ecosystem. Amid this backdrop, The emergence of rival factions, including the Barua-led group, has intensified the struggle for control of the union's soul. The recent takeover of national secretariats and reported clashes have also only deepened concerns about law, order, and legitimacy. And at the same time, a new dimension is unfolding: the gradual transition in some states from NURTW to Park Management System, PMS. This shift, introduced by state governments as a way to sanitize the transport sector and reduce unions' excesses, has effectively restructured control at motor parks. However, critics argue that PMS is not entirely detached from the same power structure it seeks to replace. Instead, it may represent a rebranding of influence where familiar factors and actors continue to operate under new framework and name. Of course, these are the critical questions. Is the government's silence a sign of neutrality or a quiet endorsement of the shenanigans going on in that sector? Is the restructuring a genuine reform or a strategic realignment of control? Joining us to unpack this important topic is Honorable Molaja Olaoye. He's an APC chieftain and a public affairs analyst. But before I bring him on board, let's see the video of how the NURT office in Abuja yesterday was taken over by the Barua-led faction, and now it was eventually looted in the other video. Let's take a look, and after that, we'll be back to talk about this topic.
Laptop, AC, mọ́tò dúdú inú mọ́tò dúdú iná ń kó sí inú mọ́tò dúdú iná ń kó sí gbogbo ẹrù yẹn ní mọ́tò dúdú iná ń kó sí o mo ti mú nọ́mbà mọ́tò yẹn.
Rubbish! Don't bring me nonsense! Nonsense! Rubbish! Don't bring me nonsense!
All right. That was the video of the forceful entry into the NURTW office in Abuja. And of course, the eventual takeover of the office that resulted into looting of properties of the same office you are trying to take over. That, for me, is inexplicable. But I have with me in the studio Honorable Molaja Olaoye. Good to have you once again.
Oh, thank you for having me here today. Something. I'm very delighted to be here. And for the viewer at home, I say good morning to you all.
Now, Honorable Molaja Olaoye, how would you describe the incident that happened in Abuja yesterday?
It's part of political game, and it's part of what is happening in a lot of our association that we are having in Nigeria. That it can happen to, it can happen anywhere. Whether you are going to talk about any other organization we are having, and the squabbles is always there. And whenever there is squabbles, there is going to be chaos. And when there is chaos, a lot of people are going to be able to feel the impact. But when you are talking about Road Transport Union, who has been part and parcel of our political dynamics in Nigeria, people read a lot of meanings to it instead of any other one. We have seen a lot of squabble that happen in NUT in your state or any other place, or probably you are talking about Noge or any other association when they are having their, whether they are having their congress or anything. So the same thing that are applicable to what is happening right now. But I think NURTW is being systematically part of our politics, so it makes it to be very obvious.
So how did an internal organizational or association crisis turn out to be getting this much attention, especially at the time when the election is around the corner?
I think, yes, that is what is so surprising about it, because they have been having these squabbles for a very long time, and despite that, they have been having different kind of court judgment, and it favor Barua. I won't wonder that if other political party want to use their tools as well, but it is still part of politics, and they are now fighting, and whether we like it or not, something is going to come out of it. So I think that is what is happening.
Now, MC Oluomo's transition from Lagos to Abuja was meant to pass a message. At the point, he had issue with some of his subordinates in Lagos, and then he had to leave Lagos for some people, even after a round meeting with the Lagos State Governor. And then someone else took over. Now, having gotten to Abuja, a lot of court cases has been seen, and of course, judgments have been passed by the courts. But the most important thing at this time, and the very big question is, why is it so much of an issue about the National Union? It should be an association that should know what to do per time. So, is this step and move at this time strictly political, or it is just usual association crisis that we also always see?
It is going to be usual association crisis that we have all the time, because when we have to read a political meaning to it, when you are talking about Labour Party right now, they have been in the court for even only God knows, probably about 2-3 years right now, going to one court from the other, talking about how the leadership of the party, and it's still not been resolved. We are having what is happening in ADCR right now. When you are talking about squabbles, we are still going to read political meaning to it. Whether we like it or not, MC Oluomo belongs to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which we know. And but it wasn't Asiwaju that said to him he must be part of organization of road transport workers. It was because of eventuality of whatever interest you are, and you know that whoever you support and that become a governor or a president is going to be able to favor you. But right now, before then, Barua has been having some problem with MC Oluomo. You must remember there was some time ago when Barua suspended all the activities of dissolve MC Oluomo state executive in Lagos State. And we expect him to have some
after that, they moved to PMS.
PMS, exactly. So you must expect him to fight back when the time comes. And I think he saw the opportunity right now, and he really need to, then they were reading political meaning that because he has that person, Barua has interest in one person or the other when you are talking about politics, that is why he removed for Oluomo. And immediately, Sanwo-Olu responded and make sure that he said because he likes to be, there's going to be law and order. And we all talk about AURTW only. He is not the only organization for road transport workers in Nigeria. We have RITIAN, that is Road Transport
Employers Association
of Nigeria. And AURTW really favors Southwest. If you go to a place like Anambra State or anywhere in the East, it's always about Artin. They were more prominent another place. But because here in Southwest, money moving to the money between road transport workers is so there is a lot of money in that organization. That is why a lot of people subjected to it. And because government has been interested in it, you must remember that when Awolowo started his political career, he started by National Nigeria Road Transport Union at the arm of the arm of what's it called, the National Union, and he started as secretary. And there he launched, there he got that grassroots power and political strategy to be able to navigate his political career. For you to know, and during the Second Republic, during the time of Shagari, this is what Shagari used in Lagos State. Because Lagos is still the seat of power, and it was being owned by UPA, controlled by UPA. How do you think they can be able to seize power in Oyo State during the time of Bolagi and Oluloyo? That is what people like a person like Akiloye used. I was so young then, and I knew what is happening when I was in the Yemetuala Adore, because what's it called? Akiloye was around the Odia Yututaba area, where he operated. And we have a lot of people who belong to road transport union workers in my area, who they bought brand new van buses, that long seat of van buses for them. It has been the part of the system. And in our state, this is what Engineer Seyi Makinde believed much in. Because immediately he came to power, he dissolved them, and he made sure that he was the one that changed it to PMS. And he has been using them since then. So
how much of an influence do NURTW or transport workers have on the electoral dimension in the country?
Now that is why I respect somebody like Abiola Ajimobi. You always tell them that he doesn't need them for anything. And now with our progression in progression dynamics in electoral bill, I don't think we have they do have any influence again, because they only use them for snatching of ballot boxes and stuffing of ballot paper in ballot boxes. That is what they are used for, to be able to disrupt election. And any election being disrupted now, some people can still use them where there is going to be a large populated area. When you are talking about disruption of election, I think that is what they are going to do. Their influence in doing that, stuffing ballot paper in ballot boxes or stealing of ballot boxes, is being reduced. We knew what happened in Kano State during the last election, when a lot of ballot boxes were hijacked. So their influence has been reduced right now, thanks to electoral act we are having. If there is disruption anywhere, they can redo the voting in that place.
Okay. Now let's take a look at.
But they still use them for intimidation.
All right. Let's take a look at the government's action towards all of this. The silence from the government, does it mean that one way or the other, it's a little bit of support and just look the other way and let things act, or let's let things go on as it is?
I think when you are emphasizing about the government involvement in the activities, I think it's really unfair, because now when Labour political party is going to complain, they are going to say it is the government that is disrupting their system. And like Ashwaju said, if he's the one that is not going to be there to help PDP, like PDP is an organization, NURTW is despite the fact that PDP is a political party, Labour is a political party, still they are an organization. So when you are talking about if government has to be involved all the time, is it going to tell Barua to stay put, to stay aside, or tell MC Olomo? The activities is going to be able to sort within themselves, whether we like it or not. But the problem still lies because of the enforcement of law. It is good for the court to give a kind of verdict, but for the implementation, that is the problem. The industrial court has given its verdict, but how are they going to implement it? That means the only thing that can happen is that all the states that are in NURTW, they should not give them subscription anymore. If they don't agree with MC Oluomo, they can functionalize it if they want to do that. But now, we're going there by force with armor and gadget or any other thing, and it is not going to end well.
Okay, now let's now talk about the economic impact. This is an association, just like you said, that has seen so much patronage, especially from drivers, motorists, so to say. And a lot of money is said to be going into that association, with little being remitted to the government. So is the NURTW a tool in the hands of the government? Do they use them to make money for some people in the society?
I think it's a tool in the eye of politicians. When you are talking about the government, I mean, a union executive supposed to be able to see out their terms, whether you like it or not. But it's not there anymore. If any government change in the state, it changes with NURTW whether you like it or not. Because the NURTW that is not favorable to the person that comes or then the government is not going to trust the one that the government left. So it has become a kind of tool in the eyes of the hands of the politician, because mostly it is used to disrupt election and even intimidate electorate as well, instead of them really canvassing for them. Because you imagine some people who have been influenced, and I think the government needs to, there must be a legislation by the National Assembly that is going to be able to sanitize the system. We are not going to be talking about, when we are talking about the government only, there must be lobby between National Assembly to be able to sanitize, see how they can be able to manage NURTW. If there is no law that is going to manage them, I think the politicians are going to be using them to the kingdom.
Now let's now take this back a little bit. MC Oluomo has been seen to have been fraternizing with the APC for a long time. In fact, he can be said to be a member of your political party. So would you say your political party is enabling him at this time or emboldening him at this time?
Whether emboldening or not, but what belong to is going to belong to a political party, whether you like it or not. He should have taken action right from time, since 2024.
So why is he coming now?
He's now coming now. That means he's been God and pushed and encouraged by some set of people.
He's been arrested.
He's been arrested.
Based on what happened yesterday.
Exactly.
The offices were looted. Taking over and looting an office. Are they the same?
When he's been arrested, he's going to be questioned. And I know he's going to be released, whether we like it or not. Is he going to go back to the office? That is it. The police are going to take him to the headquarters of NURTW to be able to guide him so he can be there. That's another thing. So being arrested is just to save his life. Who knows what would have happened yesterday if he wasn't arrested and kept in a custody. So that is not special things when you are talking about unionism. Unionists have always been arrested at one point or the other, and when they are interrogated, they are going to be released. So
what do you see as the end game for the NURTW, especially when the election is around the corner? What will likely happen?
Because there is a lot of money in it. That is why a lot of them, like in the state, have been fragmented right now. A lot of them belong to different political parties, and they are winning different political parties. They want to join them. They believe they can be able to help them to win election. In a way, after the election, if any of them win, they are expecting largesse from them. So it is always a normal routine. It is a cultural thing, that is a traditional thing that has been happening for a very long time in Nigeria.
So would there ever be a time that we'll be able to separate national union and politics in the country?
There's politics is in anywhere, in any association. But
there's direct influence from the politicians into the transport unions.
Ignorance of the transport unions. That is why. Because transport unions believe that everything must be by fire, by force. And when you see a lot of illegal activities that is happening, it's always happening in the garage. Normally, according to the Constitution, it is not, there is no power that's been given to the state or national level to be able to control garages that these transport voters are. But the power lies with local government. But because they don't allow the local government to function, that is why we see all this fragmentation. I tell some people, whereby a lot of their state chairman is being choose brazenly. It's being locked on those transport workers. They don't even know the number of drivers we have in our state. They don't know the number of riders we have in our state. If a lot of them can be, if documentation that can be made, and we have data of riders and drivers for this transport union, they will be able to have the power to vote during any election. Imagine those who choose Barua, delegate can be able to cooked the book of delegate and manipulated at any point in time. But if the election is being done directly by all the drivers that are supposed to participate in the election, this kind of thing, we are not going to be having that kind of problem. So
are you saying we are still going to have prolonged court cases?
We are going to have prolonged court cases. We are going to have a lot of chaotic environment when you are talking about NURTW, and the fragmentation has happened, and there's nothing anybody can do.
What role do you think the government should be playing at this time?
The government has played their role. When there is a breakdown of law and order, people that are involved must be arrested. That is what they are doing right now. And I think if truly Barua is being loved and is going to be elected, not with those number of people I saw behind him yesterday. We don't even know the identity. But at the end of the day, the chairman of all the NURTW in Nigeria should be able to sign that petition and make it to be known.
From transitioning from NURTW to PMS, have you noticed any change?
Has
there been any difference?
There hasn't been any change. The change can always be effected by those who is in the command of the state. And like the Ajimabi always preaches, he tells them, a union, they must not be seen as a town. They must not be seen as stock. That even right now, a driver can be wearing a suit like you do and having a bow tie with it. So he said you should go to Lagos and see a lot of those drivers who wear suit and ties. They should not be behaving and be wearing rag and smoking weed between the garages. That is not. Go to a lot of garages now. You are going to see people who are selling those sachets of alcohol, and it's just a place for a lot of nefarious activities, which is not good for us.
So we have seen the change of name, but the same actors. And as it stands, how has PMS improved in terms of restoring sanity in some garages? Has there been any slight change in any of that, or it has been the same old story?
It is changing whether we like it or not, because some of them are now hiding what they are doing. But where I think government needs to be involved is the fact that a lot of them should be able randomly be arrested and subject to drug test by FRC, instead of FRC doing what is not necessary, because FRC in Nigeria right now believe in collecting some things from them instead of them observing them, see the way they looks or the way they are behaving. Like abroad, you are going to be taken to random drug tests at any point in time if they really want to. And the driving license you have, it's like it's like a certificate. If you misbehave, if they remove it from you, you are not going to be able to get anything done when you are talking about driving. And the unfortunate part of it is that a lot of these drivers in Nigeria, NURTW, they don't have driving licenses. Wow. I am telling you.
Okay, Honorable Mola Jaolawi, thank you for joining us on the show this morning. That's been a wonderful session with you. And this will be the concluding point. We draw the curtains on the big story today. And as the dust continues to rise around NURTW crisis, one thing remains clear. This is no longer just a union dispute. It is a reflection of deeper systemic issue where governance, politics, and grassroots power collide. Whether this moment leads to a meaningful reform or further instability will depend largely on the choices made by those in authority and how long the silence continues. But for now, the question lingers: are we witnessing anarchy or strategy? This has been the big story on Daybreak Live. I am Samson Balogun. Stay with us as we bring you Trend Watch. We'll be back after this break.
We thank you for staying with us on Daybreak Live. It's been an exciting... I wanted to use another word. I discovered that we must not use it. Anyway, so thank you for joining us today. My name is Anolo Akpoidowu. It's been wonderful. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same station, and bye for now. And
I am Samson Balogun. Thank you for joining us on the show. Of course, if you see something, say something. Until tomorrow, same time, same station, same host. Bye for now.